There was something different about Ada Johnson, but no one could quite figure out what. She was always alone, sitting quietly in the back of the classroom at Lakewood Secondary School, never drawing attention to herself. To most people, she was just another shy, quiet girl with old clothes and an unassuming demeanor. She didn't speak much, and when she did, it was always in a soft, almost timid voice. But there was a reason why Ada preferred to stay out of the spotlight. It wasn't just that she came from a different country. It wasn't just that her accent was different from everyone else's, or that she had trouble adjusting to the fast pace of her new school in Nigeria after leaving Europe. No, it was much deeper than that. Ada had a secret, one that she was determined to keep buried for as long as possible. It was lunch break, and Ada had already found her usual spot in the cafeteria, sitting alone at a small table near the corner. As she opened her lunchbox and took a bite, she could hear the laughter and chatter of the other students around her. But none of it was directed at her. That was, until Diana walked in. Diana, with her perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, and entourage of followers, was the queen of Lakewood Secondary. And like every queen, she had her own subjects like Ada, who became easy targets for her and her friends' cruel jokes. Ada. Diana's voice rang out, cutting through the laughter. Why do you always sit here alone? Don't you have any friends? Or do you just enjoy being invisible? The laughter that followed was like a sharp knife cutting through Ada's calm. The students around them snickered, some whispering to each other. Ada kept her head down, pretending not to hear. But Diana wasn't finished. Look at her clothes, Diana continued, her voice dripping with sarcasm. They look like something from a second-hand store. How do you even survive at this school, Ada? Ada's heart began to race. She hated this. Every day, the same thing. The mocking, the laughter. But what could she do? She wasn't going to fight back. She wasn't the type. So, she simply stood up, gathered her things, and walked out, leaving behind the laughter echoing in the air. As she stepped outside to get some air, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her father. Ada, I need to talk to you when you get home. It's important. Ada paused, a sinking feeling in her stomach. She hadn't spoken to her father much since she returned to Nigeria. They were distant, her father always busy with his work abroad. But something in the tone of his message made her feel uneasy. That evening, Ada sat across from her father in their modest living room. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but there was a heaviness to him that Ada hadn't seen before. As he cleared his throat, Ada braced herself for the conversation she knew was coming. Ada, her father began, his voice calm yet serious, I've kept this from you for a long time, but it's time you knew the truth. Our family is not what it seems. We are not as poor as you think. Ada frowned, confused. What do you mean? I don't understand. Her father sighed and leaned back, running a hand through his graying hair. I've kept you in the dark all these years because I wanted you to grow up humble. To understand the value of hard work, not just inherit everything. But you deserve to know the truth. We are wealthy, Ada. I've been hiding it all these years to give you a chance to experience life as others do. Ada's heart raced. She had always known her father was successful, but she never imagined they were rich, wealthy enough to own multiple properties abroad, businesses, and more. Her mother had passed away when she was young, and her father had sent her to study in Europe, but they had always lived modestly, never letting anyone know who they really were. But why didn't you tell me? Ada asked, the confusion in her voice giving way to anger. Why did you make me come back here to this school? To be bullied? To be treated like I'm nobody? Her father looked at her with sad eyes. Because I wanted you to learn the most important lesson of all. That people are more than their wealth, Ada. I wanted you to have a chance to build your own identity, not be defined by what you have. You may be rich, but that doesn't mean people will respect you for it. Ada sat in stunned silence, the weight of his words sinking in. She had been struggling with loneliness and bullying, and now she understood why her father had made this decision, to teach her humility. But the cost had been high. Ada spent the next few days in deep thought. She had never really fit in at school. Her classmates saw her as nothing more than a quiet, awkward girl from a poor family. She had always accepted it, until now. Her father's words echoed in her mind. People are more than their wealth. She understood now why he had sent her back to Nigeria. It wasn't just about education, it was about character. She was supposed to find herself, not hide behind her family's name and fortune. But what if she had made the wrong choice by coming back? What if she had denied herself the chance to be herself because she was too afraid of what people would think if they found out who she really was? She realized that by acting poor, she had been hiding behind a mask of her own making. It was easier to be ignored, to go unnoticed. But it also meant she was losing out on something else, the chance to be seen for who she truly was. That night, Ada made a decision. She wouldn't hide anymore. The next morning, Ada walked into school with a new attitude. She had decided she was no longer going to pretend to be someone she wasn't. She wasn't going to be the quiet, invisible girl anymore. But she also knew she couldn't reveal everything about herself just yet. It wasn't the right time. She would find a way to show her classmates who she was, slowly, and on her own terms. In the cafeteria, Diana and her friends were sitting at their usual table. Diana looked up as Ada walked past, her eyes narrowing in confusion. "Ada? You're still sitting with the same people?" she called out, a hint of mockery in her voice. But Ada didn't flinch. She just smiled and walked on, heading to a different table. Today, she wasn't going to let Diana control her. She was going to take charge of her own story. Over the next few weeks, Ada's transformation didn't go unnoticed. She wasn't loud, but she didn't hide either. Her classmates began to take note of her quiet confidence. And it wasn't long before Diana and her group, once so quick to mock her, started to feel uncomfortable with their own behavior. One day, during a group project, Diana approached Ada. "I've been thinking," Diana said, looking a little sheepish. "Maybe we should work together on the project. You seem different now. I didn't realize how much I misjudged you." Ada looked at her for a moment before nodding. "I don't care about the project, Diana. But I care about respect. If you want to work together, then you have to start treating people with respect first." Diana hesitated but nodded. "You're right. I'm sorry, Ada." The moment Ada had been waiting for arrived sooner than she expected. One afternoon, after class, Ada stood at the front of the school hall for a special announcement. She had been chosen to represent the school at an upcoming international student conference. But just as the principal called her name, the head of the student body, Michael, stepped forward and asked for a moment of his own. "As most of you know, Ada has been a mystery to us," Michael began. "But what none of us knew was that she's not just some random girl from Nigeria. Ada is the heir to one of the largest family businesses in the country. Her father's company is worth billions." The room fell silent. Ada felt a surge of tension in her chest, but she stood tall. "I've been hiding who I am for a reason," Ada said, her voice clear and steady. "I wanted to be seen for who I am, not what I have. My father is wealthy, but I've never wanted that to define me." After the reveal, things began to change. The students who once mocked her now looked at her with newfound respect. But more importantly, they saw her for who she truly was, Ada Johnson, not just the quiet girl with a secret, but a person of integrity, strength, and kindness. Diana approached Ada after school one day, her expression more serious than usual. "I've learned a lot from you, Ada," she said quietly. "I thought I was the one in control, but you showed me that real strength isn't in tearing people down. It's in building them up. I respect you now, more than I ever did. Ada smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reflected her growth. Thank you, Diana. I've learned that respect is earned, not given. I didn't want to show you who I was to gain respect. I wanted to prove that I'm worth something no matter where I come from or what I have. Diana nodded, visibly impressed by Ada's wisdom. She looked at Ada with newfound admiration. You're right, she said, and I'm sorry for the way I treated you before. As Ada walked home that evening, her heart felt lighter. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but she was no longer afraid of facing them. She had revealed her truth, and in doing so, she had earned something far more valuable than popularity, respect, friendship, and the ability to stand tall in the face of adversity. Her father's words echoed in her mind as she walked. People are more than their wealth. Ada knew that now more than ever. She wasn't just Ada Johnson, the heiress. She was Ada, a girl who had the strength to choose her own path, no matter the obstacles. And in that moment, Ada realized that the true treasure wasn't her family's wealth, it was the integrity, kindness, and courage she had discovered in herself. As she entered the small house they now called home, her father greeted her with a proud smile. You did well, Ada. I'm proud of you. Ada smiled back, feeling a deep sense of peace. Thank you, Dad. I finally understand what you meant. Her journey wasn't just about revealing her secret, it was about discovering who she really was. And as she settled in for the night, Ada knew that the best was yet to come. She had learned that being true to herself was the greatest form of success, and that no amount of wealth could ever replace the value of being real. Ada's journey had not been easy. She had endured whispers in the hallways, cold stares in the cafeteria, and the weight of loneliness pressing against her heart. She had walked through fire, mockery, doubt, and isolation, but she had emerged stronger, no longer defined by the voices that once sought to break her. What started as a story of a girl bullied for being different became a tale of resilience, identity, and the power of self-worth. Ada had learned that the treasure she had been searching for was not in wealth or status, but in the confidence to stand tall, the courage to embrace who she truly was, and the kindness that turned enemies into allies. Diana, once the face of her torment, had changed too, realizing that power was not found in putting others down but in lifting them up. Daniel, who had once watched from the sidelines, had learned that silence could be just as cruel as words, and that true friendship required action. Now, as Ada walked through the school halls, she was no longer invisible, no longer the quiet girl who faded into the background. She was seen, heard, and respected, not because of where she came from, but because of who she had become. Life would always have challenges. People would always judge, assume, and misunderstand. But Ada knew now that she was more than their whispers, more than their laughter, more than their doubts. She was Ada, and that was more than enough. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. It means the world to us.